Hello and welcome again to another episode of FTE with Dr. Brian Latimer. I am your host, Brian Latimer, and just like all PhDs, I like to reiterate things a lot to make them seem more important than they actually are. It's kind of our thing. So today I want to talk to you about an issue that I see plaguing a lot of professors now, a lot of forums that I visit, and conversations that I have with other faculty even in my own institution. I see this a lot, and this one is a growing concern, and I feel I can at least contribute to the conversation to hopefully help others deal with this in some way, shape, or form. So here's what we've got. We've got a professor who is feeling some burnout, and they feel that their students just don't care, and they are starting to feel the same way. And they argue that their students procrastinate, don't really put in much effort, and whatever effort they do put in, it's not very good. And so they're wondering, like, should I even care anymore? Because just to add an extra layer to this, their dean is pushing them to keep it easier because retention. Now, right off the bat, that tells me that... What the fuck? Okay. Take 3. Hey everybody out there, welcome again to another edition of FTE. I am your host, Dr. Brian Latimer, and today I want to talk about something that is plaguing a lot of professors that I see on forums and in my own workplace. And it is an issue of motivation. A lot of professors that I see are echoing this sentiment that I want to talk about today, and it is basically, should I even care anymore? And it starts with this one professor talking about how they see that their students just don't seem to care anymore. Like, they want everything easy, they procrastinate, like there's no motivation on their end, so why should they as a professor have any kind of motivation? And so I often wonder about that. Take 4. Hey everybody out there on the internets, welcome again. Don't do that, take 5. Hello, and welcome to another edition of FTE with your host, Dr. Brian Latimer. Today we're going to talk about something that is... Take 6. Hello, and welcome to another edition of FTE with your host, Dr. Brian Latimer. Today we're going to be talking about something that I see plaguing a lot of forums and even in my own workplace, an issue of motivation. And I picked this one straight out of a forum because I was thinking about it, like, is this something that is more endemic within the institution now? Or is it something that sticks to a particular area of institutions? Like, is this like community colleges slacks, or is this going now across the board? And it's an issue of motivation. And this professor is talking about how they just don't have the motivation to teach students anymore because in their eyes, they just don't seem to care. These students procrastinate, they avoid doing work as much as possible, and then whatever work they do put in, it's not very good. And on top of that, and this is where I think that this individual is either at a small private institution or a slack of some sort, their dean is pushing them to keep things a lot more simple because retention. And that can be pretty murky stuff. It is very difficult to keep motivated when you have students who don't seem to care and you're stuck trying to teach any of them. And so as I was perusing the forum, responses to this, some people had some really good ideas. And I feel like I can elaborate on some of this stuff as well as provide my own perspective. So, some were offering good suggestions, just because A lot of students don't care. There are some who, actually want to learn, and those are the ones you teach to. That is true. That is something you should look for. I mean, the problem that I see with a lot of professors is we look at students kind of like how stand-up comics look at an audience of hecklers, right? There's genuine audience members who really want to be there. They want to listen to what you have to say. They want to laugh at your jokes. But what most professors seem to do is that they focus on those hecklers. Even though, their set is killing, they stare at the ones who are either heckling them or not laughing at all. Like, what is it about my set that you don't like? And that's what, rolls around in their head. And I see that happening more and more with professors in institutions. When it comes to talking about students, that's what they want to talk about. Now, I'm not saying that this is a brand new thing. Professors have always complained about students, how lazy they are. I'm pretty sure my professor said the exact same thing about me. I'm not going to hold them to that. It's fine. I mean, I was 20 once. I wish more professors would remember that they were 20 at one time. But that's not the point here. The issue really is about the motivation. And yes, it can be hard if you seem like you're only teaching to like 2 or 3 students in a room of 30. Like, is that really what you want? Because especially when it gets to grade time, what's your DFW? What's your fail rate? That can deflate people. And so is it actually worth just focusing in on those 2 or 3 who really genuinely want to be there, right? Another one brought up a really good suggestion to this about the student base is, do these students actually want to be there? And that is an issue that I see more often than not. That, students are there to get a degree because they want to do a thing. They're not there because they genuinely want to learn a thing. They just want to get through it, whatever it is. And for a lot of them, that thing of like, this is just another compulsory 4 years of shenanigans I have to deal with to get a degree, to get into an entry level of what I want to do. And yeah, that can be disheartening. It's like you already suffered 12 years of public education, and now we're going to bring you into this environment. And if you're not willing to go through it, why are you here? And if the issue is, I'm coerced here, I was told I have to be here. If I want to get this job, I got to have a piece of paper that says, I know the basics. Yeah, that can be disheartening on their end too. So it's one of those issues where we really need to be looking at this on both sides. I mean, for me personally, when it comes to students who aren't motivated, my best defense is I recognize that I can't take any of this personally. They may not have an interest, they might have other things going on. I just know that I am here for who wishes to be here, so that I can perform for them. And if others don't feel that way, it's going to shake out in the grading. I can't control them. But I do know that the ones who want to learn from me can learn from me, because I'm not going to lose that motivation because a couple, if not more, aren't willing to be there. And I'm going to use extreme examples here in a minute, because I've been in places where effort lacked. So another thing that some people mentioned was the fact that you shouldn't let them use laptops and smartphones during class, and they kind of force them to take notes with pen and paper. And so I have a hybrid solution for that. So bear with me if you can. So one of the things that I've instituted with my longer classes, I don't do this with shorter ones, But if I have a class that's 75 minutes long, I've instituted what I call a smoke break, where directly in the middle of the class, students get 5 minutes to get on their smart bricks and do whatever it is they need to do. But outside of smoke breaks, they cannot have a smartphone out. And I told them day one, you can either sit here and quietly just stare at the lecture or whatever, but it would behoove you to possibly get a notebook or a notepad, and you don't even have to take notes. Just doodle. Like, give me the illusion that you care, because it's gonna do so much for you, believe it or not. Because even scribbling things while listening actually helps you learn, as studies have shown. And so why not do that instead of, like, I still have students in the middle of this who play with a piece of plastic or fiddle with things. I mean, at least they're there, right? But here's the thing, and how I get them to do this and agree with this. If the group manages to stay with the without stay with the lecture without going to their smartphone or have earbuds or anything like that, right? If they can do that, the class gets a bonus point for that day, and it accumulates. But if I catch them, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to penalize openly, but I erase a point off the board, so that people are a little bit more attentive to, like, oh, he actually watches, like he's keeping up with this, which is true. I do that. I want students to know that I am keeping track, but I'm never going to make a public spectacle of it, because that's the last thing you want to do, is become the ire of an entire classroom. So, like a 75-minute class, yeah, I started doing that. Students are more productive that way. I actually get a lot more engagement, because it's either scribble, stare at the table, or talk to me. And I'd like to think that I'm somewhat affable and they will talk to me, so it seems to be working. Now for the darker thing here, the darker subject matter. I feel this professor's pain. However, there are certain issues that I have. Like, they complain that their students aren't coming in prepared, and they list off some qualifications to that as to why these students aren't very good. They're saying that their average student GPA is a 3.0 and their SAT is low for them. Okay? So, I can understand where that issue of, like, learned helplessness, or they're just slow on the uptake and things like that comes from. However, if I had students that were averaging a 3.0, I would be in paradise. I had a previous institution, Remus College, that was pretty bad. Even before the pandemic, student attendance for classes, I would be lucky to get a quarter to a third of my students to regularly attend class. And we had an attendance policy in theory, but it wasn't really monitored. Like, you would report, hey, this student has missed, the student has missed, the student has missed. Hey, I'm going to fail this student because they've missed way too many classes. There's nothing we can do for them, right? But registrar would let them stay, administration would be totally fine with it, and it's like, but they've not shown up. They don't even show up for the big 3 dates. First day, midterm, final. And they're not here. I mean, some students, literally, it would have to be like a miracle day. Like, all the planets would have to align to get them to show up. Like, to get a student to get an entire class to actually be there, on a regular day, was a miracle. And so, if I got most of my students, which at my current institution, I do. I don't miss too many students, and they do try. But at that institution, that Remus was bad. Remus was totally bad. Like, I know some people worry about retention, like this dean does, and Remus was a private slack, and I wasn't even grading harshly, and I had fail rates of 50%. Half of the students would fail my class because they weren't showing up. So I can't grade anything if they're not here to do anything. And I never took that personally. Like professors who complain about their students now, right? I do wonder, like, what is your regular attendance rate? Is it 80? Is it 90 or above, right? And if you're complaining about your students at that, come down to me at Remus, where you're getting 25, 33% of your students actually showing up at all. And you have to find the motivation to teach this willing or unwilling quarter or third of a student body who really may or may not have interest in getting out of here. Like, they could honestly just be here to party. And that is something that you have to contend with. Now, I was in that institution. I was at Remus for 5 years. And I think my lowest DFW rate ever was 40. Because a lot of it basically revolved around that issue of attendance. Attendance was terrible. And we had no mechanisms in place where if you missed X amount of classes, you're gone. No, because it was all about butts in seats. I get that with this dean. Butts in seats, money. And that's hard if you have standards. And so you begin to really think about, what is it that I'm really doing here? Am I just collecting a paycheck? Am I actually teaching people? Can I actually reach the ones that don't care? And so you're stuck there with this ruminating in your head. And so the thing for me is, don't give up hope. It can be tough. There were times in that 5-year stretch at Remus College where I thought, this is it. This is the bottom of the barrel. I mean, some of the work that I received for writing assignments, I mean, not even junior high level. And it's like, I don't know, what am I supposed to do with this? You know? At least when your kid gives you something in crayon and macaroni, it's like, oh, you put in some effort here. Let me put that on the fridge. But you can't even do the standards that I ask. And you have students who have to repeat your classes 2, 3, 4. I almost had one repeat 5 times one class, a 100 level class, 5 times. And he was supposedly a graduating senior. So, yeah, I totally understand that, where you are just stuck and you don't know what to do. It takes a toll, and it is very hard. But, again, like some of the suggestions from earlier, teach for those few that actually want to be here. Second, don't take any of this personally. I never took, as best as I could, any of those absences, any of the lackadaisical effort, even the horrible emails I would get after finals about grades, like, how dare you fail me and all that, never took it personally. I understand it comes from a place of anger. I understood that it was something that, you know, how dare you do this to me? No one's ever told me no. I'm sorry I have to be the first. Because last time I checked, and this is something that all of you should keep in mind too as professors, you control that classroom. You are instructor of record. And so, your domain, your rules. Now, should it be a monolith? No. Keep some things out there for negotiation. That's what my smoke breaks were. I put it to a vote to them. Is this something that you can handle? Can you do this? And they pretty much unanimously agreed. Yes, we will do this for you. We will buy ourselves notebooks if needed to scribble while you blather on about topic, and we will not look at our smart bricks because we want bonus points. Bonus points are like heroin to students. They always want that stuff because they're always looking for insurance to get an A in anything. So figure out how to do that. I use smoke breaks, and so it seems to be working so far. I notice an uptick in engagement, like they actually want to talk to me instead of looking at, cat memes or whatever else on TikTok, for, finding out ways to handle a paper through Unriddle, which you should look that up and be depressed and go from there. So, I have a lovely call I'm going to have to miss out on. That is all I've got for you today, and I hope something came out of this that you can use. Hopefully you do not lose hope with your students, and again, you want to contribute to this conversation? Do not hesitate to comment below. I'm always looking for things to talk about, issues that are happening with professors, because I just never feel like we've got enough support for anything. So please, let me know. Let me help you. I know some of this stuff can be hard, and I never want any of us to lose hope. Why would you spend 10 years or more in college to get a PhD and lose all hope? We all had aspirations. So those are my office hours, and get out. I got things to do. Got my own research to get done.